Alright, we are recording. Continuing in Mad Max. Key was provided by WB Games back when I reviewed it, which I saw in the opening screen 2015. This game is from 2015, it's 6 years old. It's still a lot of fun to play, which is part of the reason why I picked it to do these streams in. And it also still looks pretty good. You have a few things from the news, just three. I am so tired. And this is Friday, by the way. I am back from vacation. It's Friday. But yeah, just the timing of things has messed some things up for me. I'm just trying to think how I want to do this. Alright, yeah, let's do it.
Can you feel it? Huh? We're ready for the job. Huh? Ready as well.
But yeah, the timing of things has thrown some things off me. Because I got well gone. I think it was review keys for 3 different games. And there was a call for codes for one of them. Well, for another, for a 4th game. And this was while it was gone. So I wasn't looking too closely at the email. I didn't even realize that I got some of the key. Until I got back and looked through. But the call for codes I saw, and I said, yeah, so I'll take that, I'll review it. Should be able to expect those keys soon. I don't know how much I can say, well, soon. I'm not sure how much I can say because of NDA stuff, but it does kind of put me in the position of, well, I asked for that one, so I'm going to prioritize that and not get to work on these other games, some of which I got the keys for after the call for codes, and some, well, I think 1 or 2 that I got like shortly before and just didn't realize I had it. So I'm waiting, not doing the other stuff for that. Working on one article though, the continuing work, the stuff with the GPU thermals. Really just... Okay, there we go. That's disabled now, and... Yeah, so I've been continuing with that when I can. Since that's, you know... I can. I can stop that whenever I need to. But, I also need to work on some keyboard stuff as well, so that's what my Saturday and Sunday is probably gonna be, is going through,
It will tear that tire right off!
Sorry, I'm just also focusing on the game. Going through the switches I currently have, the just normal linear JWK unlubed. I have them in the NK65. They're still unlubed. They're still dry. But the plan is that tomorrow, Saturday, I will take them apart. Not sure how much I'm going to focus on video, but definitely pictures of lubricating them. Probably one of the silent switches as well, so that I have media for filming as well, putting a film between the top and bottom housing. And yeah, that's going to be a total of 71 switches I need to do that with. That's going to take a while. And then, in theory, I will, be working on the article covering the process of lubricating the switches, and then either have some time to go back to the GPU thermal stuff, or have to get started on that review. I did say, yes, I'll take a cue. And then when that's done, I'll probably have to do some more stuff, either reviews, I'd probably have to work on more reviews, or if something new came up, work on something new. Get back to writing up, get back to the switches, actually review the, what it's like to use the, switches once lubricated. I mean, I'm going the wrong way, because it did that. Yep. I thought it was weird, I should have already been. So yeah, all just timing worked out poorly. Like, didn't have the vacation at that time, which that wasn't just a, this is when we decided to go on vacation. There was also a family event then, so it wasn't as simple as like rescheduling. Plus, I'm not one that is involved with when things are scheduled. But yeah, it's there are times that I think and feel like if I had a real job, I'd have less work to do. This is kind of one of those times because I've got such a backlog. Anyway, how about actually talking about the news? The three things I have are the AMD has released the source code for Fidelity FX Super Resolution FSR, and some other stuff associated with that. The Valve Steam Deck, and also a rumor, and I'll start with this, and it's a curious rumor. I'm not sure how much I necessarily believe it, that it seems too unlikely, is why I'm not necessarily believing it, that Intel is considering trying to purchase Global Foundries, which would be very interesting, seeing as how Global Foundries was originally AMD's internal foundries. Because initially, both Intel and AMD owned their own foundries. AMD, what did I see, 2007? Something like that. They spun them off into Global Foundries because it was a way to bring money in. And I think it also reduced some of AMD's debt at the time, which, I mean, AMD right now is in a very good position. They spent like more than a decade, I think it was. I mean, it was quite a while, either just surviving or actually losing money, I want to say. They were not in a good position for a while, and spinning off Global Foundry was one of the ways that they stayed alive. Yeah, the rumor is that Intel would try to purchase it for $30 billion. And well, more specifically, I think what I was seeing was they would try to buy out one of the owners of it. Which, there is a distinction there, because I'm not sure, but I think AMD actually still has some investment in it. I could be wrong on that, but it is, the majority shareholder, though, is a investment firm. Well, Abu Dhabi's... Wait. Do I have that right? Crap. Now I'm unsure if I'm remembering the exact entity. But it is like an investment firm that's for a government. I think it's Abu Dhabi? I could be wrong on that. I could be wrong on that, but it is currently majority stakeholder is like an investment firm. I think AMD might still have some stock in it, but it's minority share. I could be wrong on that, but there would be other, I'm pretty sure that there are others that hold it, but mainly just are concerned with the majority shareholder. And like the rumor is that Intel would buy out that majority shareholder. Now here's where it's also interesting. Well, there's two things to the story that make it somewhat interesting. One is that it
Are you sure this ain't reckless?
Sorry, I'm just... Crap, I know I remember one of them, which is that apparently there is a possibility of an IPO, initial public offering, which would mean that it would become a publicly held company. Global Foundries, that is. In which case, it would make sense that, it's like, if that's what they're planning to do, I would think, well, why don't we just do that? Because then we're not, selling out to Intel, but still bringing in a lot of money. So it's like, that does seem a little... But it makes sense to try to purchase before that. So yeah, it's just... And also, I can't really believe that Intel would want to do it. I mean, yes, it makes sense that Intel wants to expand its manufacturing capability. Makes a lot of sense because of the current chip shortage. And also, it would enable Intel another source of revenue by doing what GlobalFoundries does right now, which is producing chips for those who can't, like AMD. The I/O chips are still made by Intel, which kind of gets to the thing that, while it makes sense that Intel would try to expand, it's also yeah, there would be so many regulatory hurdles involved. That's like, how would that actually work? I mean, it seems unlikely to me that regulatory bodies would be like, oh yeah, it's perfectly fine that Intel own a company that produces a critical component for its competitors. I mean, true, there's a rumor that AMD will shift to having TSMC produce the I/O dies, and they'll be at 7 nanometer instead of GlobalFoundries 14 or 12 nanometer. But it still seems odd that that'd be the case. And also, it's entirely possible that AMD would still source 14 or 12 nanometer I/O dies or just parts from them for lower cost products, or they just refine the design and get benefits that way, not just relying on the smaller feature size.
Oh, you heard about that gut noose. He the one that liked to hang you on your gut rope. Yeah, him. Saw him smack some pups once. Only one got any kind of pain on him was one who just hammered away in a kind of fury-like frenzy. Guess you better be furious to beat that boy. It's gonna get pretty heavy.
This will not be easy. So, oh yeah, that was the other thing. That was part of the rumor that does also make it curious. That GlobalFoundries supposedly has not been talked to about the possible acquisition. It has just been a definitely don't want to in the fire, that is. Which you'd think that you would need to talk to the company, but I mean, it makes sense that you would start with the people you would actually be purchasing it from. Okay. But yeah, so it's might just be early stages discussions, but it's still, I doubt that it will happen. But I think also I saw, along with that reporting, that Intel is looking to invest heavily into its fabrication capability. And also, I'll just say that the idea of Intel also taking on external clients makes sense. I mean, that would be a great way for them to diversify. But it just, I just doubt that that's how they would do it.
We've come through!
Yeah, let's leave the Steam Deck for last.
Of course I will. If you...
The other news is AMD, finally releasing the source code for Fidelity Effects Super Resolution. Which, I mean, yes, they said it was going to happen mid-July, which it has. Oh, I need to let this go.
Partners arrived. Let's play that old-time game of lust and death.
Fun. Sorry, I'm focusing on this now. But because it was under the GPU Open and early effects initiatives from AMD, it's like we knew the source code would be coming regardless, even if they hadn't said it would be middle of July. And unfortunately, I do not know how to read shader code, so I can't look at it and be like, oh yeah, I understand how this works. It's like, there's some stuff I can read and it's like, oh yeah, I know what's going on here, but this, and I looked at it a little bit, it's like, I have no clue what these naming conventions are achieving. Hang on. Okay. Sorry, I just got a text and checked what that said. But there is other news concerned with that significantly. We have 4 new games that are getting it. Some getting the patch today, the Friday, not the Saturday, so yesterday when this goes live. Yay, time travel. That reminds me of something funny. But anyway. I don't remember what those 2 games are, but the other 2 that are coming in 2 weeks' time are Edge of Eternity, which I reviewed very recently, and Resident Evil Village, which I don't have a copy of. Now, what's interesting with those 2 is Edge of Eternity already supports NVIDIA's DLSS, so we will have the ability to, do more technical comparisons between the 2 technologies. Now, as I've said before, because I'm limited to just 1920 by 1080, I don't know how much value there would be in me trying to, do anything with. You know what? There. It's like, if I do a performance analysis for Edge of Eternity, obviously I will look into it, but it is also just... Sorry, I'm just really trying to focus on the game. But it is also just the, as it is right now, I couldn't, do an article just on the technologies. And now Resident Evil Village support is also interesting because it has ray tracing, so we'll be able to see how effectively it does the whole, returning performance loss due to ray tracing. Although, true, it is also, other games have had it also support, ray tracing, like, Godfall, I think, is one. But not everybody likes certain things to that. I don't remember. Resident Evil Village, though, would probably be the more significant of the 2 for a lot of people. I don't think Godfall's that popular a game. Resident Evil games are popular. Plus, it is a newer game. So it will be... That is significant. And we'll just have to see how well it does. The last bit I got is about the Valve Steam Deck thing, and I will talk about it. But after this, let me get through this.
And our dance begins. A deadly spectacle is now.
Thankfully, I don't have... we don't have more that spawn in. Oop. No, come on. Come on. All I want you to do is pick up the thing that's been just at your feet. Oh, it's hold. That's why I kept tapping. Oh, this guy. You know, he doesn't like being hit by weapons, does he? Okay, so the Valve Steam Deck news is for a while, though I hadn't seen it for a while. There were rumors about Valve working on a console type thing, sorry, just wanna, and that it would be, you know, sort of like the Switch in design, in that it has, a screen in the middle and the inputs, the joysticks and such, on either side. It has been funny because I've seen some people try, you know, comparing the two, like it's going to remove the need to have a Switch. It's like they're different products. Yeah, like Valve is trying to market it, at least right now, it ships in December, as a portable gaming PC, which, no, it's not necessarily that powerful, but it's still, it's like, I mean, this game would probably handle easily, I think. More modern games, probably not quite so much, but it still is. If you're able to take your game, well, your Steam library with you, that's, you know, wherever you go, that's still, you know, a pretty significant thing. So I got.
They thought they had all the time in the world.
My own personal feelings concerning the Steam Deck are, for my current situation, and even if my situation were not as miserable as it is, I don't think it would quite work. But it is still a very interesting product, and that is just me. I mean, there's certainly going to be plenty of people that it's perfect for. And going back a bit to the whole it being a portable PC, it is a it does use an AMD semi-custom but APU, which means it's a, more specifically, it is a Zen 2 CPU core. Is Zen 2 CPU cores combined with RDNA 2 GPU cores, which that is important, because that, I do believe, will make it the first AMD APU with RDNA 2 compute units in it. It is, like, yeah, there are the Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 semi-custom parts, but I think that, well, I'd have to check, actually. Because I thought at one point I saw it was decided or determined by someone that it is actually, that those are not true RDNA 2. They're like a hybrid of RDNA 1 and 2. Hey, what am I missing? Insignia. Okay. Just have to keep looking. So if that's the case, then this would be significant, but it definitely, there. Would be the first that is a general compute device. The consoles you know, those aren't just, you know, normal computers. They're very specialized. So it's not like you can run Windows on there, which is something you can technically do with the Steam Deck, according to Valve itself. Like, I found that in the FAQ. I was actually checking to make sure that I had certain things correct, like, you know, what is Steam Play and Proton. Because it will come with a version of Steam OS, which is a Linux derivative. Well, as probably plenty of people recognize, Linux is not exactly known for gaming, so you need something to work around that. And what Valve has is Steam Play and Proton, which, oops, well, wanted to avoid breaking his legs, but I missed the ladder. But they use things like DXVK that takes DirectX 9, 10, and 11 API calls and translates them to what Vulkan uses, so that you can run in Vulkan. And VKD3D, I think it is the one that does the same thing but for DirectX 12 API calls. I think that's the name of it. I could be wrong on that. Proton contains those, so that's something that a lot in the Linux community like, that by Valve developing Proton, a lot of stuff then gets upstreamed back to VKD3D that is available more widely. Okay. Yeah, so that I can find the minefield. But what I found in the FAQ when looking, and it's one source link, is it does state you are not limited to just the just that. You can install, well, you're not limited to just the Steam experience. You can install other software, including other operating systems. So you could install Windows on it, potentially. There may be some limiting factors like drivers and such. But you could, in theory, install Windows on there and then just be good. You know, it's like you can play whatever. You can also install other game stores, which... I'm just trying to remember if the GOG client... Not Galaxy 2.0. I don't think that would. I think that's still only Windows. But the original Galaxy, I'm pretty sure can still be downloaded, and that should be available on the Epic Games Store. I'm almost... Oh, perfect. One right here. Epic Games Store, I'm almost certain, is...
Moving closer!
Windows only.
Some big bad armor on these small ones,
But yeah, for me though, it's like I don't need portable gaming. I mean, it definitely could be nice. It's like I wish that Loop Hero were on mobile. And but that would be a game then that I could, you know, just like find a spot wherever and be able to play, and know that, you know, like performance wouldn't even be too bad. Could play this, though I wouldn't, just, you know, since I need to do the stream, these videos. You know what? No, let that one go.
Hurry up and fix the car.
My black fingers itch for sacred work.
What else? I mentioned Edge of Eternity earlier. That I could believe could be run, but it would have to be turned down a bit. I mean, that has a wide selection of options, of settings and options, so I could believe that that could be made to run on an RDNA 2. Only 8 CUs of RDNA 2. I could believe that. Why am I doing this? I have this backwards. There we go. Oops. But yeah, it's just for me, not necessarily the thing that I need.
Oh, here it comes! A mighty duster!
But it's still, I mean, it's like put in a request for a review sample because I would love to work with it. I'd also love to open it up and see, okay, can we change out hardware in there? I can believe the CPU would almost certainly be soldered, and I would be shocked if that is. The memory might be as well, which it's 16 gig of LP DDR5, which is further confirmation this is definitely a semi-custom because there is no current AMD CPU that supports DDR5. But then also the LPs are a little different. So it's, you know, it might be a smaller step than from DDR4 to the LP DDR5 than from DDR4 to DDR5. But also I would want to see about the storage, because the critical differences, there are multiple, between the models are storage. The lowest model at $400 has 64 gig of eMMC, which what that means is basically taking a 64 gig SD card and solder that onto a motherboard. That's eMMC. That's it. I mean, it's like, and that is also what it actually like stands for. eMMC is embedded multimedia card. And SD cards are a form of multimedia card. But if you pay more, then you can have 256 gig connected by an NVMe drive, or 512 gig. Now, what I find curious about this, though, is why is it not like 320 gig? Because you know, why do you not have the 64 install, you know, eMMC all on? Why don't you have that available on all the models? I mean, yeah, that would be a way to save some money, but it's also you could do that, couldn't you? And then you just slot in the NVMe drives. But yeah, so it's I am curious if those are things that could be accessed and changed out. The storage drives. I would hope so, but I mean it's impossible to say until you actually have the hardware, because that stuff can be soldered in. But then I did also see Valve is doing its normal thing with the Valve hardware, which is, you know, it's not just that they want to produce this so that people will purchase it, but they also want to get other companies to produce similar things. Like the Steam controller, I think they did put the CAD files out so that you could 3D print your own shapes and such too. Your own models of it, and it's like, great. I don't think anyone ever did that. I like the Steam controller, by the way. I do like it. But I will admit, it did not succeed as Valve probably wanted to. The Steam API, though, was a great thing to have come from that experiment. But how about the Steam box? That failed so badly that I think they had like 3 or 4 different models that were like shown off at the announcement. It's a big deal. And I think only one of them ever came to market. It's like the Alienware version, I think, was up for sale at one point. But I don't think that the other version, the other Steam boxes from other companies ever got produced or sold. And it actually might even be that the Alienware one, like, there were people that placed orders and they were never fulfilled. Like, the money would have been refunded, yeah, but it's like, that was such an abject failure. But again, it was the whole, they wanted to, you know, set this new standard and also bring Linux gaming up, but it then did not, you know, manifest. So we'll see, because I saw apparently Gabe Newell in some interview said that they want to see other companies develop things similar to the Steam Deck. They like saying that that's what they want to have happen, but Valve has a poor track record of that actually happening. We'll just have to see. It will be interesting, and there is a chance, and that chance I would say is going to be thanks to AMD, particularly at the moment, Intel possibly in the future. And that's just the whole AMD has so succeeded with Zen, the larger Zen family, at having, it's like this is an APU that will probably actually be pretty damn competent. Like, AMD has definitely succeeded at having designs that even at low power, at low power usage, are still quite performant. So, yeah, I mean, and that's for both CPU and GPU. So the fact that that hardware exists, thanks to AMD, and Intel probably will achieve that as well, they're not having a great time because of the foundry issues that they've had. But, you know, they, with them getting into the discrete GPU stuff, they're in integrated GPUs. I was thinking like embedded, and it's like, no, that's not it. Or internal, it's like, no, that's not it. Integrated, there we go. It's like those will probably improve by virtue of having the discrete GPUs and more money to invest in those designs as well, by it just being its own thing. So yeah, it's I could believe that we would see Intel develop chips that would be comparable at being low power and high performance. Because right now, yeah, Intel does have, you know, kind of corner on the market for certain things. But what was it? Was it Tiger Lake? I think it was at Computex where Intel announced this new mobile CPU, and they were comparing it against AMD, and it's like, okay, here we go. And in the notes, when you actually look at it, it's like, yeah, you're running 10 watts hotter than the AMD part. So is it really that big an achievement to beat it? Alright, what I would love to see, though, and I know that there's going to be plenty of people that would be like, why? I would love it if Valve were to release a second generation Steam controller derived in part from things that they learned from the first generation, obviously, but also from designing the Steam Deck. Because there really are some things to the Steam controller design that I like. I like the shape of its grip, how it turns my hands, just how I hold it so that my hands are turned in more towards the center of the controller, whereas like with the PlayStation 4, my hands are more sticking forward. I find the Steam controller more comfortable, especially for my larger hand. I like the way that the triggers work, and yeah, they're not the haptic stuff, but it's like there's a clear, this is the analog, and then there's the actual click at the base for a button. Trackpads, they're nice to have. I mean, especially on the right, for me at least. Because I'm not a joystick gamer, but what was it? I think there was something I talked about not too terribly long ago. We talked about how it was perfect to compensate for the Dead Space PC controls, which are kind of garbage. It's like there was, I think I talked about it last week, 2 weeks ago, a rumor of Dead Space being remade. And it's, you keep to the foundation there that the original laid. You can definitely improve it visually and as far as performance, but also controls on PC. But the trackpad, the right trackpad, was so important to being able to compensate for the bad controls. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, that's funny. So that one is cleared, and let me... 40 minutes. Here's what I want to do then. I want to find this... Why am I... You know, I shouldn't be doing that. Okay, he's right. It's like, I don't know where the car is. I want to find the other... other minefield, take care of them so the section will be done, and then I'll stop. But yeah, so I would like to see, like, with the Steam controller, a second-gen Steam controller, you can keep the trackpads, but, like, move them. So, like how you have on the Steam Deck, you have the 2 joysticks, and then underneath them are trackpads.
Behold, the roadkill enter the fray!
An ability to, like... Good? Okay. Like, is it the Xbox Pro controller? Is that it? There's something, like, I think that's it, where you can... No, is it the Elite controller? Whatever. You can take parts out and change it. That would be neat to have, you know, being able to just change out a joystick or a trackpad.
Got us a sneaky.
But it's like, I could do a trackpad on the right, leave me with joystick and D-pad on the left. I personally would prefer an asymmetrical layout, the Xbox style layout, also GameCube, to the PlayStation's symmetrical joysticks. Yeah, do that. Keep the buttons. Although, if you can replicate the buttons, the action of the buttons on the DualShock 4, they're nice. That's nice. I also like their joystick. Even though I don't like the position, the feel of them is quite nice. But it's like, you know, give me back the way the triggers work. I'm just trying to think where. Let me try heading there. But give me back, you know, the nice analog sticks. That way, it's like they're such a nice large size, which is a lot more comfortable for me than the DualShock. How I hold a controller is typically there, and those triggers on the DualShock 4 are kind of small, and the grip on, well, the texture on them it makes it feel smooth. It's not. It is rough, but it's like I don't feel into the grooves, so I am actually like losing points of traction on it. Whereas the Steam controller, it's not a polished plastic, so it's not completely smooth, but it has a plastic texture there, and that felt fine. But I like how they're a good size, they're angled. That's very nice to have. They are angled down because, yeah, your fingers aren't, you know, necessarily going to be parallel to the horizontal plane of the floor. You know, depending, they might be angled down. You know, your hand is curved a little bit. It's like that's the Steam controller with how the triggers are angled feels more natural to me. It's like you could do a second-gen Steam controller and I think be successful with it. But I can believe that they won't. I mean, who knows? If the Steam Deck succeeds, it would make sense then to try for peripherals around it. I don't want to be them. And there is the official dock for it, because it has a single USB-C port on there, but you can connect that to send DisplayPort, so you can connect a monitor to it, but you can also get a dock, you connect it that way, or it said any powered USB-C hub, and then you can have DisplayPort, HDMI, Ethernet, USB-A ports, things like that on there. Oh, perfect, here it is. Right? Yeah, this would be the other one. Just needed to actually pop. Perfect. Alright. There, so now I just need to get the buggy. So yeah, it's like... There's...
Thank you, Walker.
There is hope, essentially, that we could see a second-gen Steam controller. I think there's hope. That might be, wishful thinking. But it's like, it seems reasonable that that could come to be a thing if the Valve Steam Deck succeeds. But yeah, just, I will admit, it's not necessarily a product for me. If I were given a review sample, provided a review sample, I would definitely review that thing. I mean, it's... I don't want to say that, personally my interest in it is limited, but that wouldn't stop me from, examining it critically and, praising what it does right, criticizing what it does wrong. You don't have to always have a specific interest in something to review it. I know that. I've had some games where I did not care. And other games where I cared a lot and then was disappointed. It happens. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. My point is just, I don't know, because I'm so happy with my desktop that I don't think I would necessarily move away from that. And a lot of the games I play are not ones that necessarily translate to mobile. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, good, he got out. And also, I don't know about the ability to record with it. Like, is it something you'd have to wire up, or can it stream directly? I don't know. That is something else I'd be curious about testing. Since I do a lot of video games. And one other thing I can talk about. I don't have it in my notes, but the same day that the Steam Deck was announced, Elgato, which is owned by Corsair, announced various new products, including a new Stream Deck. Oh, that time must have sucked for them. But they did announce other products as well, like some mic arms, mic mounts, which did not impress me too much, mainly for one thing. The clamps for them, for mounting, are in like what you have for a monitor arm. And it's like, I couldn't really do that. That would be too large for me. Like, I do have a monitor arm, but it's like, I don't have room on my desk for another one like that. But it also looked like, because the way I have this mic mounted is actually, my ceiling slopes, it's actually mounted to that. So that way it is completely over the desk. It's completely free of that. Previously, I had it like mounted on, there's like a half shelf, there's the desktop itself, the top of the desk, and then like halfway between in the floors another shelf, I previously had the microphone arm mounted on that, and it uses a much smaller amount than what they were showing for these arms. But it's like, I can't, the actual mounting hardware looked like when, that I have here, it looks like wouldn't be able to work with what they showed, because one of them that they showed, there's a riser that you can use, and when you look at the website, and it shows the image of like that pulled off. The section on the arm itself for that, which would need to slide into the things that I have used before, way too small. It would not be there. It would not be stable in this mount. So it's like, I can use it. I will admit though that having the cable channel with a magnetic cover for it is kind of neat, so that we can easily get to the cables and easily hide them. I would also point out, though, how much do you care about hiding the cables? I mean, it's just the whole, like, with building a PC, proper cable management, they're hidden, or at least out of the way anyhow. I mean, without a special cover. I'm sorry, maybe that's just me? But it's like, if you have the cable running in the channel, and if you then just have the slack somewhere else, then you don't see it. You don't need a special cover. But that's me. They did not announce new capture devices, which is a little interesting. They did announce... Wasn't it... No, they announced that. Was it... Oh, yeah, that's right. They... Well, I cleared it.
Gotta call the humpback now.
They announced a webcam that they called Facecam, and it's like... Did you come with a more original name for that? There we go. Yeah, it's like seriously, Facecam. $200, which I think, yeah, that is a bit expensive for a webcam. But, to be fair, it is capable of 1080p 60, so that is higher end of webcams to my knowledge. Not that I follow that market closely. I don't use webcams. It uses a Sony sensor, which is like, okay, that's a good. That's good. That's definitely a plus. Because Sony knows how to make sensors. They know very well how to make sensors. So yeah, that's good decision there. And an 8-element glass lens, which I don't know how significant that is as far as like compared to other webcams. I'm just unsure about. It is able to send out uncompressed video though, which is definitely nice. So that what that means is that, like for me, using OBS, if I had that hooked up in there, OBS would be able to get the pure uncompressed signal. Whereas some webcams, they compress it, so you're immediately losing some data, some quality potentially, some detail potentially, just by virtue of using that webcam over a different one, such as Facecam that offers uncompressed.
I'm going. Wait.
Another thing they announced, though, was like, really? I don't think this was very intelligently designed. Why did you design it this way? It's a USB audio interface, which I have one of. I have a Tascam US 2x2, 2x2, which they actually don't make anymore, but they do make two other things that are like the same kind of product. If you look at Tascam's website, they should be 2x2 in name somewhat, although it might be like 2i2, I think one of them is, or I think one of them has an HD 2x2, whatever. They have two XLR ports on the front, and the array of knobs and such for controlling. And it's like the reason for a USB audio interface is so that you can take an XLR mic and connect it to a computer via USB. Hence, USB audio interface. This Elgato thing, though, it only has one port on there, which is like, okay, if all you're doing is capturing yourself, that's not a problem. Technically, I can hook up two microphones here, so I could, like, if I were to play with somebody else or just be interviewing somebody, I could have, like, their audio, cap them on a separate microphone, and then be able to work with the audio separately. But legitimately, that's not a big deal. For your average streamer, I would think there's no need for more than one connection. So, grant that. And it's on the back. The Tascam has on the front, which, you know, I like. I like that's right there. Even if I don't need to touch it, I still like that. It's so accessible. Hang on. I don't remember if you actually find the dog here. There was some game where you see a message like that, and it's like you can actually find the dead dog then that did starve to death. Yeah, kind of sad, but that is one of the things. Just because I'm still talking. So yeah, with the so that's what you have on the complete rear of the Elgato audio interface. I don't remember what they named it. On the front of it, you have, I assume, 4 capacitive buttons, because you don't see any like physical button there, just icons for it, symbols for them, and you need to be able to go through them somehow, and a big knob. And this is one thing and this is something I don't like, because like if I want to adjust the amplitude for the mic. So you know, like if I want to turn up, it's crap. I'm trying to think the actual term for it, and it's just not coming to mind for some reason. I got a knob that, and I have that tuned so that when speaking I should never peak. Which is another thing about that thing that I don't like the concept of. If I want to increase the audio to the headphones, that's another knob. If I want to, I need to get away from this. Just, I don't have the space to properly. Yeah, knew that was going to be happening. Yeah, I've got a separate knob for that. If I want to adjust the mix between the microphone and the desktop audio, that's another knob. With this thing, though, with this Elgato audio interface, it is instead, you have to cycle through them somehow. I'm not entirely sure how, if that is done by, like, there are capacitive buttons that you can tap on, that changes them. But regardless, the way it works is definitely you turn the knob. So it's one knob for these three very different things that you don't want to confuse. Alright, there we go. Oh, he's back there. Alright. And there's also a fourth one that would be for phantom power. I use a capacitive mic, so it needs 48 volts of energy sent to it to work at all. Yeah, just how it is. And nothing wrong with that. I like the idea of using capacitive mic over like a dynamic. But I mean, it's, you know, whatever is your preference. So it is good they support that. They would have to if it's going to be an XLR, if it's going to support XLR. But here's another thing to its physical design that I don't like. And I don't understand why they did this way, other than, well, to make it look like they're Stream Decks, where they're, you know, kind of a triangular shape. So the buttons for the Stream Deck are at an angle, which makes sense, because it, you know, you need to be reach out and press on that, and you need it turned so that you can easily see what the buttons are, right? That makes sense. Cool. Go with that. Why is it like that for the USB audio interface? That you should arguably not be reaching out and manipulating too much? I mean, it's like the Tascam is basically a rectangular prism. The thing I'm using is rectangular prism. A lot of the like more professional targeting USB audio interfaces, to my knowledge, are rectangular prisms. An advantage to that is, you know, it makes sense. Whereas you look at the at this thing, that it's triangular, which it seems a very odd decision. Alright, now I have to go around a different way. But it's also, there's one more button, a capacitive mute button, which sounds awesome. You know, it's, for me, if I want to mute the microphone, I've got a hotkey I can press. But the thing is, if I look at the Tascam, its signal light still goes on whenever I talk. Because the Tascam is still capturing the audio, it's just OBS is ignoring. That's what the hotkey does. In theory, I could flip the switch to turn off the phantom power, but that actually is picked up by the audio interface, so that would appear in the audio, and it also fades out. So it's like that, definitely not the way to mute the mic. And it needs to, you know, fade back in. It's not like the sorry, I'm just heading back there now. So it's like a capacitive mute, so you just tap it at all, just slightest touch. You don't need to really like press anything mechanical, so there should be no noise associated with that. It's like, that seems great. It's on the back of the thing. Yeah, it's a triangle, so it's, you know, kind of the back and top of it, but it is, you have to reach around to reach behind the thing to get to the button. this is a button that is very reasonable to assume you will need to use during any arbitrary recording at any arbitrary time. Why are they making it something you have to reach behind the device for? That I do not understand. I really don't understand. That's what they decided to do. I mean, it's like if it were a rectangular prism and on top, that wouldn't be too bad. Although I actually have my the amplifier for my speakers on top of the Tascam, so wouldn't be so great then. If it were on the side, that could work, or just on the front. It's like that would work. I'm saying there are other options than the back of the device. I really do not understand that design choice. I mean, I get that it makes it look like the Stream Deck. You can now have it next to the Stream Deck, and they look similar. Is your brand imagery that important that you're putting such a useful button out of reach? And there's another thing to it that I don't like. Let's stuff. It has something called clip guard that fortunately did say can be turned on and off, because I would definitely want to run that off. So clipping, how do I want to put it? I don't know what this is going to do. So because you're taking what is intrinsically an analog signal, audio, my voice, and trying to digitize it, there are limits to the digitization. There is a maximum value that you can measure. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. There is a maximum value that you can measure, dictated by, like, if it's 16-bit, 24-bit, 32-bit, whatever, you can only go so high. Right? Clipping is when you push beyond that. So I mean, it's still recorded. You're still going to have the audio recorded, but it is going to be the same to others. Frequency might be in there, but the amplitude is all the same. As other things that also clip. If you look in OBS, I'm going to leave. Sorry, not in OBS. If you look in Audacity, it uses 0 dB as the maximum. Well, and then everything is negative dB. Clipping would be going to 1 dB, 2 dB, 3 dB, and 1, 2, and 3 dB would all look the same. That's what clipping is and why you want to avoid it. Which for me, I just don't have the gain. That's it. That's the term I was trying to use. The gain on the microphone. I just have that turned down low enough that it doesn't happen for me. It's like I would have to really shout for that to happen. Because I can just digitally amplify it later very easily. Huh, that's neat. So I'm out and I just saw an email thing. Another call for codes, but it's console, so it doesn't impact me, but it is for something that I'm happy to see is coming to console. I know my brain. Oh yeah, with the gain stuff, it's like I keep that turned down enough that I don't have to worry about it, and that I think is the better way to do it. You make sure that your recording doesn't clip, and then you just do the post-processing stuff. Like I could just apply gain in OBS to overcome that, and not just do it all digitally. Don't have to worry about the thing itself. Also, I can just do what I already do, which is edit it in Audacity. But with this thing, which let me actually, since I'm out of the game, I can try looking it up. That actually I think is it. There. It has this thing called Clip Guard. Yeah, this is it, the Wave XLR. And what is this thing I said? $160. Let me see what the Tascam would be. My brain partially turned off that. What ClipGuard does is when it detects clipping, it will just shunt the signal over to other circuitry to reduce the volume. which I'm pretty sure would just translate to it has resistors, additional resistors. I think that's how the electronics work. It's been a while since I've had to do much detail work with electronics, like 10 years. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So it's energy's taken out, so it's now the gain has been reduced, essentially. But that also means then that when you're talking, if you accidentally clip at one point, you're now like changing the gain, you're changing the amplitude on the recording itself. I hate that idea. It's like, to me, I want that recording to be static. I don't want anything manipulating there at all. Let it be a clean recording of itself, and then I'll edit the hell out of it later. I do loudness normalization, so I know it's going up and down, though with the purpose of actually leveling things out. So even when he's like, I'm talking quietly like this, or if I'm talking more loudly like this, it'll come out much nearer each other. It's like that's, yes, I choose to do that afterward though, and I still have the original mic audio to work with. Well, at least until I delete the files, because I don't keep these files. I do for other recordings though. So this idea of it just doing that for you by changing where what the hardware does dynamically like that. Well, dynamically as in, I should say reactively, because probably the amount of negative gain, I guess, would be the right way to put it. I have no idea what that is. It doesn't say, and it might just be whatever they select. And that might be something that maybe you can change, but let's say you can't, and it's just that you can turn the feature on and off. That's still, to me, very dangerous. You're manipulating the original such that you're losing something, and you might not be able to recover what was lost. I much prefer always working from basically having master recordings, where it's like, no, this is all of it. You can manipulate from that. You can freely manipulate from that, do whatever you want to from that, but this itself is clean. There has been no manipulation applied to it. That to me is how you should do recordings. And this clip guard feature, it definitely attacks that. It defies that, I should say. That would be better than attack. Better word than attack. So yeah, it's like I don't. For me, I don't see the appeal. It could just be a Elgato figuring, well, there might have been requests, people asking, hey, Elgato, will you do this? Your brand that we trust, which is fair. That's very fair. It's like, it's like, we trust your brand. Can you produce this product because we know we can trust it? Because you don't know others like Scarlett, Tascam, Behringer. Try to remember, does Yamaha make any? I don't remember now. But I have been very happy with my Tascam. I really have. And I've got the Behringer that I used before. I was happy with that. But Scarlett is also very well regarded. And not just for, like, use by streamers. I mean, professional products. Like, if you want to spend, if you want to spend $1,000 on some hardware equipment, on some audio equipment, they can help you with that. They can most definitely help you with that. That be what I'm looking for? No, that's. Oh, there. Okay. Alright, so. Yeah, it's like they have. One of the Tascam things is the US 16x08, and US is just because it's USB audio. It's not like United States. I think Tascam is actually a German or Austrian company. I don't remember. But that can have 8 microphones hooked up to it. The Series 10-2i says it's 10 in 2. What? I don't think that's quite. Well, it might be 10 in, but in different ways. That I think is actually initially what replaced my 2x2. I just want to see, and it supports MIDI stuff, so that might be where the 10 inputs is, where that comes from. Also has dual headphone monitoring, which is useful. Would be useful for some. I'm not seeing something clearly. Hang on. Maybe this. Okay. 2 XLR TRS. TRS is like a 1/4 inch, and it's like what instruments would use. An electric guitar would have that. 2 no, that's 1 optical S/MUX expansion port that accepts up to 8 channels of audio inputs. That's how you get the total of 10. All right, so that's what the 10-2i, the Series 10-2i gives you, and that is a wrong button. $349 is what they have it marked at. It's normally $400, and I think I paid $100 for my 2x2. Now, the thing that might more accurately replace it is this US 2x2 HR for high resolution, $179. What's the Wave XLR? $160. So $15 more, and you can get something that has 2 XLR ports on it, all the knobs for controlling everything on the front. It can actually also be... What I currently have can actually connect to... Like, I can plug that into an iPad, and the power off of that connection will work. There was a 4x version that had 4 XLR ports on the front. That you need external power. But I think that this 2x2 HR would be able to run off of an iPad. I haven't looked through all of the features for it yet. But it's still, Tascam is, like, they make very professional equipment, as well as these things that are targeting more streamers. So it's like $15 more, you get more of the, you get that kind of background to the company. You get an additional XLR port on the front. All the knobs for controlling stuff that you could need. Let me actually pull it up. Okay, so there's a switch for controlling for both of them simultaneously, phantom power or not. If it's a mic line or instrument, which has to do with how much impedance is there. I'm looking at the 2x2 HR, not my thing. The gain knobs for both, because you can have the gain independent for them. The monitor so gain would be on the Wave XLR. How do they control that? Input gain. Yeah, just set input gain. So I have on the 2x2, both of them, both what I have in this thing. The 2x2 HR have independent gain controls for both. A monitor balance knob, so that's its own separate thing, which that's crossfade between mic and PC mix. That is how it's described for Wave XLR. That's its own thing. So I don't need to hit a button then turn the same knob for them. It's 2 separate knobs. A line out volume. So that's actually, the Tascam is hooked up to the amplifier. The amplifier gets the signal from Tascam, so I can turn up the line out to increase the volume of my speakers if I want to. I manage it all with the amplifier and just have the line out basically dead center. That is not a feature for the Wave XLR, I believe. I think it's only set up for headphones, which the headphone connector is on the back. Yeah. Whereas for the Tascam, it's on the front. The line out connection and USB connection, those are on the back. And then, of course, there's the knob for adjusting the headphone volume. And it's like all separate there. It's like, to me, that's a much more sensible design from a company that has decades of experience in this. Like, the movie, and I will be stopping soon. You know the movie, The Usual Suspects? In, like, when the guy is, telling the story, you can see a tape deck behind him for, like, recording the conversation and such. I don't remember if it is actually used, but it says Tascam right on it. Because Tascam has been in the business for decades making audio equipment. And it's just, that's... I would rather go to them for this stuff. Let me see. Scarlett. And you can also get more than just audio interfaces from them. You can get a mixer. You can get mixers from Tascam, microphones, headphones, handheld and field recorders. Yeah, you can get a lot from them. Scarlett is from Focusrite. I'm not sure how old of a company it is, but I'm pretty sure it is also, it's been in the business for a while. And it's just, to me, that's where I would go for getting that stuff. And I'm sorry that it seems like I'm dumping on Elgato a lot, but it's like some of this stuff, like, you put the damn mute button on the back. Okay? I think you deserve some criticism here. But I'm also just saying that personally, I like my Tascam. I like it a lot. I would recommend going, like, if you want to get a USB audio interface so you can use a nice XLR mic, I'd recommend going to that. It is true that the software, the fancy software, because part of the reason that Elgato explained for why they made this thing is so that you can use the Wavelink software. Yeah, at least my thing doesn't really have that. It does work with various pieces of software. I think I did see a list somewhere. I mean, it's bundled with some. I'm not using it. But audio from software from Steinberg, Cubase, and it'll work with other things as well. So it's like, I mean, you will not be in a worse position by going with something like the Tascam 2x2 or the Scarlett. I'm just looking. 2i2, which it is very comparable. They also have a 4i4, which only shows 2 XLR ports on the front, and 8i6. That's the same, only 2 on the front. But I guess that's, it supports other types of input. I should remember another. There was another brand besides Behringer. I mentioned that earlier, but another one that they also make audio interfaces like this. And it's like, it's for what I need, for what I do. It's perfect. And I don't see how the Wave, for my experience and for what I want to be able to do, I don't see how the Wavelink really, or the Wave XLR can compete with it successfully. But hey, if you want to trust Elgato, go for it. I mean, I don't know enough about that brand. It may be a wonderful brand for this stuff. And if you like, hey, I want it all Elgato, want it all the same ecosystem, go for it. Nothing wrong with doing that, okay? Nothing wrong at all. I'm going to be critical of the design. It's part of what I do. It'd be funny if they were like, hey, you want to review any of this stuff? It's like, sure, I still will, but I mean, it's like, I can tell you right now, if I were to review the Wavelink, it would be like, I don't know why the hell they are using this physical design. It might, the audio quality might be superb, but it still is. You put the mute button on the back. I can't get away from that. I'm sorry, I really can't. Alright, I should really stop talking. So yeah, I should see you next time when, let's see, I'm going to spend this weekend lubricating switches. Hopefully I will be starting that one review that I said, yeah, send me a code. And I am looking forward to that game. I genuinely am looking forward to that game, but I am also looking forward to, let me check my list of unused keys. Actually, one of these I think is a preview, not a review key. But two of them I'm definitely interested in. Another one, somewhat interested in. It's a multiplayer game though, and not necessarily a multiplayer game. Yes, that is a preview. Okay, I just looked at the email. But yeah, I've got some. Oh yeah, and there's also that game that I got. Really, I've had it that long. What was it that was distracting me from that? In any case, though, it's like I do have a number of games here, number of review keys that I'd love to do. It's just the timing has been wrong. Such is the life. All right, seriously, gonna stop now because I know I've been ranting and rambling. It's kind of what I do. Sorry. And my apologies to the fine people at Elgato. I do not doubt that you are very passionate and very skilled at what you're doing. It's the mute button on the back. I can't get away from that, and it just makes me want to mock it, because it's like, why would you do that? And also just my whole, I really do like my Tascam. I can definitely recommend it. Get whatever works best for you. I'm just saying, I can recommend it if you want to have such a piece of equipment. But also, with noting with the Tascam, you do need an XLR microphone to work with it. I mean, it's same with the Wave XLR. It's like those are meant to work with XLR microphone. If you would be happier with a USB microphone, go ahead and get that. You know, do whatever would be best for you and your situation. This is the setup I prefer. The Wave XLR, technically, it would completely satisfy my needs. I'm just, being critical. But yeah, it's get what is best for you, and know what you know what it is that you're trying to do. Just like with building a computer, know what your use cases are, figure out the components that best serve those, and enjoy. Okay, see you next time.